Good afternoon, my wild and beautiful friends. I'm so glad you're here. Wishing you a very happy daylight savings. I hope that the lighting will work with me long enough for me to share with you my favorite way to eat cabbage. Keep on watching to see how we make it. Alrighty guys, not a surprise, you need some cabbage for this recipe. I've got a small head of green cabbage here, and I've just peeled off the layers of cabbage that seem a little bit dirty until we got down about one layer to some clean cabbage. And now I am cutting this little guy into fourths. I'm leaving that little, I purposely have not cut off the stem because I want that to hold our cabbage sticks together, and that'll keep them like one piece as we bake them off. So I've got 4 pretty close to the same size thickness steaks here. I'm going to add them to a little cookie sheet that I have some parchment paper on, and then we're going to doctor them up a little bit and throw them in the oven. If I'm going to take the time to make a cabbage steak, I am definitely going to add enough fat to get it nice and crispy in the oven. So I've sped this up a little bit so you don't have to watch it for too long, but I've got about a tablespoon of olive oil on each side, and I'd say about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and a little touch of roasted red pepper flakes, totally optional for a little heat on each side. So once you've got both sides oiled and seasoned, you are ready to pop them into the oven. I kept the sound on for this clip because I just had to share the sound of me grinding salt in fast motion. You're welcome. I think it's funny. Anyway, I've got my oven preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit. Once these are seasoned and oiled, I'm just going to toss them in there for about a half an hour to start with. And while these little guys are roasting on up, I'm going to make a super simple mushroom gravy. This is seriously so simple, and it is a really nice sauce to have in your little sauce arsenal. So give it a try. It's good on so many things, especially this cabbage steak. So if you've watched any of my earlier videos, one of the things I talk about pretty often is going to the grocery store a little bit early, and sometimes you can find some really great deals on produce. So I got these baby bella mushrooms for, I think, about 50% off. We used a few for pizza last night, but I think the rest need to be cooked, so this is the perfect time for me to be doing this recipe. I've got about 10 ounces here that I'm going to dice up, and then I'm going to just coarsely chop a medium-sized shallot and a small white onion. Don't worry about cutting it too finely. It's going to totally melt into the gravy for as long as we're going to cook it. So I'm adding those into a medium skillet on medium heat with a bit of olive oil. I'm just going to let them get translucent and just slightly start to brown. That takes about 5 or 6 minutes. And then I'm going to dump in all of our diced up mushrooms here. I'm also going to add a chopped clove of garlic. I waited until now to add it because I didn't want it to start burning with those onions and shallots. So we're just mixing them around, and we're going to let these brown up a little bit before we start adding our wet ingredients and our seasoning. It takes about 3 minutes. They cook down pretty quickly in this big pan. I'm then going to add our seasoning. We have got some salt, pepper, garlic powder again, roasted red pepper flakes just for a little bit of heat. And then what really sets this gravy apart is adding some fresh thyme. There's nothing like the combination of mushrooms and fresh thyme to me. I wish you could smell my kitchen right now. Oh my goodness, it's so yummy. Now once we've got our mushrooms cooked down like this, our seasoning's added, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vegan butter. And then this is going to kind of give us some liquid to add our flour to make a roux. So I'm going to just add 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. You can absolutely use gluten-free flour. It works pretty much just as well. I've used rice flour, and I can't tell the difference in the texture or flavor. I'm going to get this all stirred around, get it all kind of like incorporated in. We want to cook it for at least 2 minutes so you don't have any sort of like raw flour flavor going on. So now that we've cooked for 2 minutes, I'm adding in some non-dairy milk. I'm adding 2 cups. And then I'm just going to keep it on medium heat, stirring occasionally until it comes to a really light boil. While this is kind of simmering away and coming to that bit of a boil there, I am going to check on our cabbage steaks. It's been about a half an hour. They're getting brown. I'm going to add a pat of butter to each little steak here, if you can see what the heck I'm doing. And it's going to melt in and get nice and brown and make our cabbage that much more succulent. I'm going to let these babies roast for another about 15 minutes until they're nice and brown and tender. Back to our gravy though. Secret ingredient, last thing I'm going to add is a heaping tablespoon of nutritional yeast. This really rounds out all the flavors and gives it just a really nice depth of flavor. At this point, taste test, add more salt, add more pepper to your liking. but we're looking pretty good here. And our cabbage steaks are almost ready. Look at these beauties, so nice and browned and crispy on the edges, really tender on the inside. Super great on their own, of course, but why would you not add mushroom gravy if you could add mushroom gravy, right? So we're, of course, going to slather this little guy with all of that mushroom goodness. It's going to be amazing. By far, my favorite way to eat cabbage. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope that you're all staying safe and healthy, and I really can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers.